Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is Natalie Cutler Welsh, and this is another episode of the Impact Entrepreneurs Interview Series. We're in season 2, where the focus is all about resilience and wellness. I'm so excited to have another man in the house. I'm talking today to Rich Ellis, and we are talking about men. We're talking about men's health and resilience and wellness, specifically in a man's world. I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Rich. Welcome to you.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Amazing. So before we kick into this topic, can you give us a little bit of backstory, paint us a picture? What are you up to and how did you get to this point?
Well, what I'm up to is working in the health space. Obviously, I'm in the right place today talking to you. I've been in the fitness industry for about 11 years now, health and fitness industry, and it's sort of evolved for me over time. I previously had a career in retail that brought me to New Zealand. You can probably tell I'm not from these shores originally, a little, just like yourself. And having worked for a number of different organisations in New Zealand, I kind of got to a point where I realised I wasn't quite doing what I loved enough to keep doing it for the rest of my life. And I kind of by accident kind of got into the health and fitness industry through following an interest. I wanted to learn more about health, learn more about how I could help my own health, my own training. And by the time I finished the course, I had decided that this was going to be a career change for me. And I got into what would you traditionally see as personal training initially. And over the years, that's kind of evolved for me, depending on the person or the people that I've been working with and also the mentors that I've had along the way. And that steered me down a more holistic path. So it's not just about nutrition and exercise now. It's much more about the whole person in terms of helping them get their results. And of course, we know that exercise alone isn't going to make an enormous impact, but we know that if you combine that with the right nutrition, some good sleep habits, a whole bunch of other, I guess, dimensions in terms of health, people will slowly but surely get closer to their goals. And helping them understand that is the journey. Some people can get there quickly, and some people are a little bit slower and everybody's, you just meet them where they're at and take them on the journey. And that holistics thing has sort of evolved into working with businesses as well. So, working with organizations that understand the value of health of their team and how the improvement, I guess, the total improvement of the health of those people will have not only a benefit to the team, but also a benefit to the business.
Yeah, I love that. I love that wellness in the workplace is finally, becoming a thing, like a legit thing. So that is amazing.
Absolutely. It is.
Let's dive into like the man's world thing. So for those people that haven't met me before, I'm actually originally a parenting author. Well, not originally, but, in my 30s, a parenting author. And I talk a lot, from the mom's perspective, but really what got me started in that area was the relationship, the marriage, the dynamics of that and keeping it thriving, particularly when kids enter the scene. And so I really, even though I work with women entrepreneurs in my business, Go-To Girl, I love men and I love talking about men and I love understanding things from their perspective. So I am very excited for you to pull back the curtains or just shed some light today for us women, what it's like as a man, and in terms of the resilience and the wellness piece particularly.
Sure.
What have you found?
Yeah, my journey into this industry has been an interesting one because I had this perception that I needed to be everything. I needed to present this amazingly fit, healthy human being that was kind of an example to everybody that was coming to see me, and that my nutrition was on bang on, and I was exercising regularly enough, and I was getting enough sleep, and I had the energy to do what I needed to do to work with people. And I quickly realized that was unsustainable the way I was doing it. And to the point where actually I got some testing done and realized that my body was in complete exhaustion. My body's ability to manufacture cortisol was almost exhausted, as was I. And I realized I had to make some changes because those things and in that combination, were not sustainable. So I realized that I learned more about the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, and how that I was pretty much living my entire life in sympathetic state, which to your listeners, that's essentially fight or flight mode. Mm-hmm. And our bodies are not designed to be in that fight or flight mode for long periods of time. It's a mechanism that's designed to give us an ability to survive short periods of stress, get out of that state, and then carry on and do whatever you need to do. So I was working in that state, I was training in that state, and I was probably half sleeping in that state because my sleep was poor as well. And so I realized those are the sorts of changes that I needed to make. And part of that was adopting a yoga practice into my life, adopting some meditation, and really reorganizing the way that my week worked, to the point where I was even taking naps at noon in the quiet time during my day, so that I was able to try and recover my body to a point where, I still had that energy that I needed to do my day-to-day with clients. Slippery slope.
Yeah.
Luckily, it took about 2.5, 3 years to get that cortisol manufacturing function in my body back to a healthy state. So my total cortisol was normal, and that's when the energy came back. And so it was it's a journey. And I guess a lot of that learning that I've been through is now helping me understand how my other clients that are in that fatigue state, or burnt out, or trying to do too much, really need to try and find the balance. So I help guide them to a point where they're still able to do all the things they need to do, but I help them understand that, they may need to make some adjustments in their routine to help keep their bodies in a state of homeostasis, which is where everything's balanced in the right way, rather than it being shifted too far one way or the other way.
I'm just going to dive in there because I love it so much. There's a lot of synergy actually between this and the interview that I did just earlier today, that some people might have seen, but definitely go and watch it, you guys. It is about true abundance and financial resilience. She also, though, Melaine Lee, my guest, she also talked about homeostasis, and she also talked about, wanting to not give advice, but coming from a place of experience. So what I love about your mess, which has become your message, in speaking terms over here, is that you've walked that path, and now you're helping other people who are heading down that path to kind of deviate and go a smarter way. And I know a lot of us in the audience, we've heard of rushing women syndrome, which Dr. Libby talks about. And I guess a lot of that time I think about, women, because in today's day and age, we can do anything, we can do everything. But I also have this respect and appreciation for what I think is in a man's world, is where they do have the pressure to either be working or be helping with the kids, nowadays. Like the bar has been raised on fatherhood. So I'm coming at this with my parenting hat on. So there's that. But I also am intrigued where you were like, as a representative of health and fitness, I need to be, fit and healthy and have an awesome mindset. And so you almost like pushed yourself, you became your own client kind of.
Yeah, that's right. I did. And I had to take myself through that journey. I think some of the testing that I've done as a result of that has then given me the tools to be able to interpret the data that comes back from these things and say, this is where you're at. This is the black and white of your internal health. If you stay on this track, it's going to be disastrous. You're going to be a lot sicker than you may already feel. So, there's you've got to kind of show the pain, the worst possible situation, so that people can then realize just how much things could deteriorate. But there's also the opposite, where it could be a whole lot nicer, it could be a whole lot better, happier, more energy, and it only requires a few things to change by 1%. Now, it's not one thing to change by 10%. So it's little interventions that over a period of time become habits, which over a period of time help bring that energy back up, that vitality, that zest for life, and all those sorts of things. And I think the key message from a testosterone point of view for me is that, our sex hormones come from the same source as our stress hormone. So essentially, if our bodies are in that state that I talked about before, which is the sympathetic state, the fight or flight state, for too long, our bodies basically say, well, you're telling me that this is what's going on, so I'm going to downregulate your ability to make your sex hormones, because you don't need to do anything with those because you're in this stressed state. And I'm going to upregulate the stress hormone because that's what you're telling me needs to happen. So it's the signals that we send to our body. Our body's very clever at responding to those appropriately. But unfortunately, there's a knock-on effect in terms of your health when those go out of that homeostasis balance, and you've got too much of one thing and not enough of the other. And so for men, that deterioration of testosterone is a slow, gradual creep in the wrong direction. And that's something that I'm in the same situation with now. Mine is particularly low. and I'm working on bringing that back up as well. So I've got the cortisol stuff right, and now I need to go back and chase the testosterone stuff.
So I want to dive a little bit into the measurement. So one of the things
Yeah.
people might be thinking is, well, how do I know if I'm in that state? Well, they might think, well, I know I am. Hey, you guys, comment below you in the Facebook Live or watching the replay. If you can resonate, if you can relate to being in that fight or flight state for kind of a prolonged period of time. I'm a go-getter, so I probably spend a lot of my time in that state. But how can people measure it, or how do you measure it when you work with people? And then maybe a few tools. I know you already mentioned yoga and meditation, but a couple of other tools that people can use to kind of bring that back.
Yeah, absolutely. Great questions. I guess the measurements that I've done over the time initially was a cortisol test, which was a saliva test, and you track it over the day. So you have 4 samples, and you can add other things into that test. So it's a bit like going to your doctor and asking for bloods, and you say, well, I need these bloods, but can I also have these bloods and these bloods? Saliva is a good test because it's easy to do, and it measures your free cortisol in your system at that time. So it's only a snapshot, but it's a useful one, and sex hormones can be added to that. There's another one which is kind of the gold standard called the Dutch test, and that's called Dutch because it stands for dried urine complete hormones. And what that does is that will measure the free cortisol in the same way the saliva will, but it also measures your metabolized cortisol, so the cortisol that's been through your system. So it's a far more in-depth measure, and it can also then look at testosterone. It also looks at estrogen, and it will look at progesterone as well. So male or female, you'll get a very complete picture about where your body is at from that stress point of view, from a cortisol point of view, and from a sex hormone point of view. So those are available from pharmacies. They're reasonably easy to get hold of. They're not cheap, but they are powerful. And if someone is in that dysfunctional state or thinks they may be, I recommend they go and talk to a professional first, get some advice as to whether that may be the right path to go down. And then, if there's someone who likes data and likes the black and white, it really does give you something to look at and go, okay, this is my reality. I need to get some more support on how I can then get myself back to a healthier state. So that's how it's measured. What was the next question? I've forgotten.
What can they do about it? But
the
next question.
And I guess for me, I mean, it's about managing that stress. It's about managing my day. It's about not putting myself in a situation where I'm stressing myself out too much. So instead of blocking my day and let's say 3 or 4 hour blocks, I might shorten my blocks and say, I'm going to work for an hour, I'm going to have a break. I'm going to work for another hour, I'm going to have another break. I'm going to have a long lunch time, and then I'm going to do more smaller blocks in the afternoon. So still getting the work done, but doing it in a way that allows your body to find some downtime in between, so that if it is full on, then you get that time to recuperate, to do some breathing, to just sit and have a drink in the sunshine outside, in nature. All of those things help manage our cortisol in the right direction. And like I said earlier, finding some sort of practice that you're not always just running, you're not always just lifting weights, you're not always doing high intensity work. You may be going for a gentle walk, you may be walking the dog, you may be going to a yoga class, something that's lower intensity, something that is more of a working in exercise rather than a working out exercise. And a good test of whether it's a working in exercise is, can you do it on a full stomach? So if you can do it on a full stomach, then it's low enough intensity that your body is getting some nourishment from the movement, but it's not getting challenged and stressed by it at the same time.
Oh, I'm just smiling. I went to my first boot camp class since probably the past 7 months. And I get there, we're boxing, we're doing like stepping up onto this tire, I'm skipping. And I was like, having that half bagel before I came probably wasn't the best idea. Because usually what I do is I go to bar Pilates class, which is like, I can eat no problem before doing it. But for me, I don't really I don't work up a sweat very often. I walk the dog pretty cruisy. So that was a little mistake for beginners there, having the old bagel before.
I think another element to bring into this, Nat, is also our environment. There are a number of things that we can control that I've just discussed there, which are well within our control if we're prepared to make changes in our lives. But there are other things that we may not be aware of that are having an impact on those hormones. And one is the environment from a plastic point of view. I can't remember in detail, but the BPA, everyone knows that BPA plastic's not healthy, and obviously manufacturers have slowly evolved, and they've moved their manufacturing of plastic goods away from BPA, and they've found other products. But when we were exposed to those for long periods of time prior to everyone realizing that it actually wasn't good for us, that was having a negative impact on our sex hormones and disrupting them. And that disruption has been going on for a long time up to now. And, simple things like coffee cups that are almost ubiquitous. Everybody's got one in their hand. There's a phone in one hand, there's a coffee cup in the other. That old packaging style was made of things that weren't good for our health. And if we were sipping those things on a daily basis, that hot cup of coffee was leaching some of the bad stuff into the liquid, and we're consuming that in our bodies, and our bodies then have to deal with it. So that's an unknown, potentially, and an invisible stress on our body that our livers have to deal with clearing some of those things from our body. And if that's a sustained thing, that's an ongoing stress that the body then, quite quietly just has to get on with. And that has a negative impact on testosterone. And we know that the next generation, my children's age onwards, potentially their testosterone levels are going to be significantly lower than the generation on, and much lower than 2 or even 3 generations older than them. So there's lots we can control, but we also need to question the things that we're consuming, and also the way we're consuming them, so that those things aren't having a negative impact as well.
Yeah, I think you mentioned about the environment and nature time, but also one of the things I talk about a lot is I say, what are you feeding yourself? And I say, literally, what are you feeding yourself? And also mindset and who you're hanging out with, who you're following, all those things affect your resilience and your wellness. But just on the environment note, I listened to an interesting podcast recently, and they talked about blue light. We were talking about 5G, and they talked about blue light. And he said, when you're eating, try to eat outside under natural light as much as possible. I had never heard of anything like that.
Yeah, it's an important factor to have in your day. And I might actually go and stand up and grab my blue light blocking glasses in a minute. Good little prop. It's important to have that natural daylight in your day at the beginning of your day, so that you're helping to regulate the circadian rhythm. Because if you go from your house to your car to your office to your car to your house and actually don't get any outside time, it can disrupt your circadian rhythm, because the bright light is the signal to the brain that it's daytime. And if you don't do that on a regular basis, you start that circadian rhythm will start to slip. Equally, at nighttime, when you're not when the natural light has dimmed and the sun's gone down, we're inside and we've got all the lights turned on, we've got the television going, we've got the phone still on, and the iPad and the laptop and all those other things which we are finding it more and more difficult to switch off from. That's just another signal to the brain that it's daytime, even at 8 o'clock at night. And there's that next disruption which will knock on to poor sleep habits. And so what if you talk for about 30 seconds, I'll go and get these glasses, and I can show you how I manage that nighttime light.
Yeah, I'm sure I can think of something to say. It's interesting. So bringing it back into the man's world, as I'm calling it. And this is one of the things, especially in winter, right? When we don't have the long days, like some people, especially if they go to work early and they come home late, like you say, they will not see the daylight. And just think about the impact of their body over time. Oh, look at that. Check that out.
So yeah, going back to what I was saying, once the sun's gone down and you've got lots of lights on in the house, your brain's still getting that information that it's daytime. It's, why would I go to sleep when it's daytime? So what that means is your body won't naturally make melatonin to a high enough level that allows you to stay asleep for the whole night. And so I won't wear these for much longer because they're not my daytime ones. But this is one of the solutions, because you can dim lights and you can turn televisions off, and you can manage some of those things. But you may need to do some work. You may have a report that needs to be done that evening before you go to work the following day. Well, this would be a solution. You can still do the report, you can still stay on your computer, but at least your brain isn't getting the signal from the blue light, which is the dangerous light, in terms of pushing that melatonin down. And then you'd go to bed and go, well, you may fall asleep, but you might wake up at 2 in the morning and wonder why you're waking up at 2 in the morning. And it could possibly be that blue light.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that a lot of people might not have thought about that before, about the limited amount of natural light that they're getting. I have a friend who used to work in a mall, and she would work in a mall for about 6 years. And so she had no natural air, no natural light for multiple years. It's got to affect your health.
Absolutely. We are, at the end of the day, we are animals, and we're very civilized animals, but, we are designed to be in amongst nature. We're not designed to be in concrete blocks with glass and air conditioning. And unfortunately, that's where we've got to. So we've got to mitigate some of that by having meals outside, by going for a walk, by getting closer to nature, because that's where we're supposed to be. And, remove that for too long. And like you say, with your friend, that would have health consequences at some point, potentially.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, I want to go to a little bit deeper and a little bit darker of a place, if you'll come with me briefly. I met with a really cool guy. I'm in a B1G1, which is buy one, give one. I'm in that where we donate a certain portion of our earnings to different projects, healthy water and things like clean meals and things like that. Anyway, I met this great guy, Larry, and he's a veterinarian by trade. And we were talking about the crazy rate of suicide in New Zealand. And he said, apparently vets have one of the highest rates. And I said, why do we feel like we're kind of all trying to like arm wrestle each other to who's got the highest rate? Because I thought it was construction workers. Yeah. Someone else said it was dentists. So I don't know. In your work with men, and it is predominantly men, but not only men, in your work with men, what do you, like anything that you just, any way you can, anything you want to say to the wives, the women or the mothers, or any insights to men out there around the mental health piece?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with men is that they don't talk about things. And I mean, we all know that, generally speaking. It's being able to share, and I think it's being able to share without judgment. And, we're typically problem solvers and trying to find solutions for other people's problems, but don't necessarily look inward enough and work on our own issues. And I'm probably just as guilty as any other man on that front. I was pretty protective of the information that was coming from my health checks, and trying to share that in my household was quite challenging, because it was difficult for them to understand where I was at and where I was coming from, especially when you've got an illness that, I say illness, especially when you've got something that is affecting you internally, and from an outside point of view, you actually look fine. When we have physical issues, we go and see the doctor, we go and see a physio, we go and see the chiropractor, and they work the physical thing until it's right. When we've got something that's invisible, it's hard for people to A, empathize, and B, really know what to do to help. Because it's not talked about enough. And I think for people to just have a sympathetic ear without judgment is a really good step in the right direction, because then there's that learning, then there's that understanding that will help improve the empathy that they can give to someone in a situation where it's something that's technically invisible but very, very real for that person. They know what it feels like, they know what they're going through, but for someone else to understand it, unless they've been on that same journey, it's really, you look fine, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just that non-judgmental ear.
Okay, that's really good advice. And also I think, and I imagine you'll agree, I know you've worked with women as well, I actually don't think it's so much of a gender thing at all. People who listen to me know that I'm obsessed with personality types. And I think, men traditionally, we fix things, we solve problems. Yes. But I also think that that also is a personality type thing. So in my marriage, I'm the fixer. I'm the man in the relationship in terms of, we don't have enough money. No problem. I'll do another program. I'll have another course. Or the ideas person, the fixer. And to the extent when Matt's trying to just talk to me and tell me about his day or something that's going on at work, and I'm like, ooh, what about this? What about that? And he's like, hang on. I just want to tell you, I don't
Mm.
want you to fix it or solve it, which is
Mm.
traditionally it's the other way around with the gender. So I
Mm.
really think, it is, it's a personality thing, not as much a gender thing. But I think the difference here is the men don't have the framework or the social, outlet
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
either have a rant or have a, download or have a just really chat
Mm.
out with somebody. I mean, some of them do. They might maybe go for a jog and have a talk, but
Mm.
I think that the difference is that men don't have the outlet to express, and they're not expected to, whereas women traditionally were like, oh, women love to talk, so we're expected to, so it's more okay. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and I think men do it through other means, but they do it at a much more superficial level. And I think the example I give is sport. Men get together to play football together. They may get together to play tennis. They may get together to go for a run, whatever it is, and that's kind of how I have my contact with my male friends. Um, but I think the feelings and the thoughts are as deep as they would be with women as well, but I just don't think that they're expressed in the same way. A bloke turning up to meet a bloke for whatever the reason is just as important and just as heartfelt as it would be, women catching up and sharing lots of thoughts with each other that men probably wouldn't necessarily share. But it's just done in a different way, and I think that social connection, and I've learned more about this over the last couple of years, is that for some people in particular, that social connection is a critical element of their health. Critical. We're pack animals. Going back to the fact that we're animals again, we're designed to be amongst each other, and there are some real negative health consequences if we're isolated and if we don't have that contact. So from a mental health point of view, from a being part of a tribe point of view, having that ongoing contact, whatever it may be, is critically important, not just from a social point of view, but from a health point of view as well.
Yeah, I agree. And this is where it comes back into those gender roles with my parenting hat back on, is what I see is traditionally, at least in New Zealand, the woman stays home with the baby, the dad carries on working, which, is actually, I appreciate a lot of pressure. And I'm like, I can't imagine year after year after year in a job. I mean, I haven't had a proper job since 2008 when I started working for myself, and I'm never going back, right? But I just can't imagine year after year after year of getting in the car and going to work or whatever, honestly. So there's that. I feel like there's not a lot of space for men actually to have that, what do you call it, social connection. Nowadays, they're expected to either kind of be at work or like hands-on with the baby, help cooking the dinner, because we've raised the bar on what men, are expected to do. And I'm super happy with that. But I'm like, where is their time for them? And they're
Yeah, yeah. And it might be as simple as that gym stop on the way home, but if you've done a massive day and you're expected to come home and hold the baby, and you decide that you're going to do the gym thing as instead or as well or whatever it may be, there's pressure to do both because that's what's supposed to happen, and that's probably just not sustainable. It's and I think this comes back to the workplace again. It's those environments at work where there's that flexibility of hours, there's that flexibility of being able to work from home, and there's the trust there that the job will still get done, but it allows people to have more balance in their lives, and that's got to have a positive knock-on effect to their health. And there are more organizations doing that, aren't there, where a 4-day working week or 5 days at a shorter day are becoming a little bit more normal and commonplace.
Hey, I've got a little challenge for anyone listening, including you and me, Rich, is I think as busy parents or whatever, we get so caught up in, I don't know how old your kids are, but like, okay, I'll take Ruby to hip hop. She doesn't do it. I'll take Ruby to cheerleading. We'll drop Jonah at hip hop. I'll meet you there. We'll do this, back and forth, ships in the night. I think a friend of mine highlighted to me the other day that this holiday, they're going to sit down as a family and they're going to redesign how they want things to feel and things to go, because sometimes we just get so used to being busy. But I think as a couple and as an individual, you are the CEO of your own life. Yes, you are the CEO of your own family, and we can decide, how do we, is this working for us or is this crazy? I mean, I'm not surprised at the crazy divorce rate, but I actually think a lot of it is probably because people aren't saying what they want. And as a couple, as a family, they're not sitting down and going like, are we actually doing what we want? Or are we just doing what we said we would do, what we think we should do, and what we've always done? So, interesting.
That's good. Yeah, it is. And I think more families should do that, and getting around the dinner table at least once every day to just catch up with each other and make strengthen that family unit. It's not just for the kids, it's for the adults as well.
Yeah, and then the kids can go away so we can have an actual conversation.
That's right. Then you can get the red wine out.
Yeah, all good. All good. Hey, good to see you, Kara. Good to see you, Sarah, on the Facebook Live. Awesome. Hey, Rich, I would love to ask you if there's any kind of organization or book or anything that you want to do a shout out to.
For me, one close to my heart is cancer research. And that's one that you get these charities knocking on your door and it's hard to say yes to everybody, but one that I committed to was cancer research, and they take money straight off my credit card each month, so I don't have to put money into a tin, which is great. My mum's unwell, and she's in that situation where the cancer research has been a really useful factor in her life, and hopefully a much longer life. From a book point of view, I've been following an English doctor called Dr. Arangan Chatterjee, and he has written 2 books. So if I can double up there, it'd be great. Yeah. The first one's called The 4 Pillar.
Later. You can send me the link.
Yeah. 4 Pillar Plan and The Stress Solution, and both of those resonated with me because they just tie in with the stuff that I do all the time with clients in terms of getting the lifestyle choices right, and managing that stress impact on your body and your health. So yeah, I'd highly recommend those. He's got a podcast as well.
Oh, I love podcasts. Okay, let's talk about that a bit more. You mentioned in the work that you do with clients. Please remind me, how do you work with people? I know you're a speaker because that's how we met. Yeah. But how else? Are you one-on-one? Are you a workshop guy? How does it work?
Yep, all of that. So I guess my bread and butter is one-on-one. So I've got daily clients who come and see me for movement as well as health. It's usually a combination of both because the body needs to move. And sadly, when we're sitting in chairs and at computers all day, our posture goes and our muscles get weak, and so that's an important element, an important element of health. So there's movement and there's health coaching in there. I do some workshops, and there's some coming up for me in August, which is quite exciting. And organizations, I do talk to businesses and say, look, there are 2 ways of doing this. One would be for me to come in and say hi and do an hour's presentation on a topic that works for them. Or alternatively, if they like the cut of my jib, running a slightly bigger program over the course of a few months, and potentially ongoing to really make some impact. Because if people are going to make some changes in their lives, in their habits, it takes time, and they need support and they need accountability. So that's where the program comes in, because there's that ongoing support, and everybody moves at a different pace, so they all need different types of support. So yeah.
Speaking of accountability, anyone who's watching live or watching the replay, I invite you to comment below and let us know one thing that you've taken from this that you are going to action in your life. So it might be, I know that he mentioned, meditation, yoga, kind of reorganizing your daily diary, anything like that. It might be me going, okay, I'm not going to eat before I go to my boot camp. Okay, so any action that you're going to take from this, comment below, and hopefully we can help to hold you accountable. Where can they find you on social media and online?
Yeah, sure. So I've got a Facebook page, Richard Ellis. I have a business page, which is Fit for Life, Advanced Health Coaching, and an Instagram, which is Fit for Life NZ. So it's fit_for the number _life _NZ.
Okay, I will get
yeah, that should find me.
Awesome. That sounds good. Yeah, I'll get the links because it's like __. Amazing.
Yeah.
Rich, just to wrap things up, is there any kind of final words of wisdom or anything you want to highlight before we say adios?
Yeah, I mean, there's loads, but I think, the message I'd like to leave is, what's one thing that you can do today that will help or improve your health? And it's all, it doesn't need to be an avalanche of things. I mean, often people think they just need to change their worlds, and they don't. It's just one thing. And I think the most powerful one would be sleep, because as some wise person once said, sleep is the tide that raises all health boats. So you get the sleep right, and that will have a positive knock-on effect to almost every other aspect of health. So, if it's buying yourself a pair of blue light blocking glasses, or getting outside during the day for some natural light, going to bed half an hour earlier so that you get at least 7, if not 8 hours, and potentially some people 9, then it's going to have a massive knock-on effect to so many other systems in your body.
Thank you so much. One final question from me. Do you ever get told that you sound like the guy from the Headspace app?
I have once by somebody else. Yes.
Sounds twice.
Yeah. I did play with that for a while, actually, Headspace. I quite like it. But I have to say, my favorite at the moment, I have used Calm. My favorite is One Giant Mind.
Okay. Excellent. You've just got tons of tools and resources. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you much. Thank you, everybody else. And definitely go and check out the other episodes and spread them. Spread these. These are just things that I'm doing. I'm interviewing amazing people who have insight and advice and experience so that we collectively can raise the bar on mental health and happiness. Thank you so much.
Thank you.